This is the draw, aim, and fire drill. This is the most important drill because it's the minimum you would have to do in a self-defense situation. What you'll practice is removing any garment that's in the way of your pistol, drawing it, aiming it, and firing it. Start off slow and develop good muscle memory, then pick up the speed once you're more comfortable. This next drill is the double tap drill. Most shooters miss their target more than half the time in a self-defense scenario. Even trained shooters like police officers miss more than half the time. So this drill is about practicing putting 2 rounds on target as fast as possible. I'm going to show you how to shoot from the hip. If an attacker is very close, they might be able to grab and take away your pistol or jam it if you aim from the front and the rear sight. If they're that close, what you'll have to do is shoot from the hip. In order to safely shoot from the hip, what you need to do is place the bottom of the magazine and your thumb on the side of your ribs. And this lets you feel that the muzzle is forward you and that you're not going to hurt yourself. Sometimes there's more than one bad guy in a self-defense scenario, so it's a good idea to practice these drills with multiple targets. Even very good shooters have a hard time hitting moving targets, and it's even harder to hit a moving target that's shooting back. In a self-defense situation, it's a good idea to move while you're defending yourself, and it's even better if you can move to cover. Brick, cinder block, and engine bays are very good cover you might find in a self-defense scenario. Pistol bullets have a very hard time going through engine blocks, and this table over here is going to simulate an engine bay of a car. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shoot and walk behind that table and then take a knee. When moving and shooting, avoid any unnatural leg movements. Don't do any crab walking or any other type of unnatural movement you wouldn't do when defending yourself. What you want to do is keep your upper body stable so you can have good shot placement while you move your legs. This is the failure to fire drill, also known as the snap cap drill. The purpose of this drill is to cause a failure to fire with snap caps, and that has 2 practice benefits. One of those is that when there's a failure to fire, there won't be any recoil, and that allows us to see pre-fire flinching. And pre-fire flinching is a very common problem that shooters need to overcome. It's when a shooter is anticipating a shot, they'll flinch the gun up or down or left or right, and that needs to be practiced away because that flinching makes the shots less accurate. Another benefit of causing a failure to fire is that it allows us to practice the tap rack procedure. The tap rack procedure is about getting the bad round out of the chamber and a good one in there. It requires slapping the bottom of the magazine to make sure that it's in there good and not going to cause a failure to feed, and pulling the slide to get out the bad round and get a new one in there. So what I'm going to do is load my magazine. It's better to have a friend do this so that you don't know where the snap caps are. The last time I did this, I was anticipating the snap caps, so I tap and racked when I didn't need to. It's a good idea to practice reloading because in a self-defense scenario, you might need to empty your magazine and put a fresh one in. To practice this drill as efficiently as possible, put one round in the chamber and an empty magazine in your pistol, and then put a fully loaded magazine in your holster. Fire the one in your chamber, dump the empty magazine, and then put the new magazine in your gun and fire again. This will allow you to just keep repeating the drill very quickly, and to do it even faster, have a friend load a third magazine. This is the wall drill. The purpose of the wall drill is to practice pulling and releasing the trigger without moving the front sight. Take your magazine out of your pistol. You won't need it. And don't forget to check your chamber by racking the slide so you don't put any bullets through any walls. And what you do is you aim like you normally would. Get your muzzle about half an inch from the wall. Squeeze the trigger until it breaks. Then rack the slide. Release the trigger till it breaks. We're trying to do both of these without moving the front sight. There's some movement in my front sight, so I need to practice this more often. There it goes. The trigger just reset. And that's the wall drill. The nice thing about this is that it doesn't require any ammunition, and you can do it at home. You don't have to go to a range. The bad thing about it is that it's boring compared to a live fire drill. So doing this 5 minutes a day is plenty. You'll get better with just 5 minutes a day. It's a good idea to practice shooting in low light. Lots of self-defense scenarios happen in low or no light situations. So it's a good idea to keep a light on you if you think you might need to defend yourself in a low light area. I'm going to show you how to use illumination and a firearm with a light that's not attached to an accessory rail. There's lots of good reasons to not use a tactical light. One of them is safety and legal concerns. Aiming a firearm at somebody that's not a legitimate self-defense target is highly illegal. But if it's attached to a pistol, you'll have to shine your light and your gun on somebody at the same time. But with a detached light, a flashlight, we can light up an area and put light on people without pointing a firearm at them. And it's also a good idea to not point guns at people that aren't threats. That's rule number one of even having a firearm, is to not point guns at anyone that is not a legitimate self-defense target. Another reason is that lights are targets. So Mr. Bad Guy is going to shoot at a light that's pointed at his face and blinding him. So if we're aiming a tactical light and a pistol at Mr. Bad Guy, if he shoots dead on, he's going to shoot right in our faces. And if he shoots low, he's going to shoot at our neck which has arteries, and which is how we talk. And if he shoots even lower, he could hit our heart or our lungs or our liver and lots of other things in the torso. So, but with having a separate light, Mr. Bad Guy is going to likely shoot at this light that's in his face, and all he can do is hit an arm or hand, and this is our weak hand, so it's in a way our least important hand, and it's a very hard target to hit because arms are much smaller than torsos and necks and heads. And so the way to do this is to keep your arm in an L shape so that we can walk through doorways and hallways. Now you can practice walking through. You can do what I just did and practice walking through your house with a light and an unloaded firearm. You could also go to the range and do this. It's a good idea to practice shooting with one hand. You might look a little silly at the range with a light in your left hand and a gun in your strong hand, but I'm okay with looking silly if it makes me better at defending myself and those I love. One place that's not often talked about that we might need to defend ourselves is inside of a vehicle. This could be at an ATM, in a parking lot, or stopped at an intersection. Pistol bullets go right through automotive glass and doors, so being inside of an automobile is not protection against a pistol-wielding attacker. And vehicles are small and cramped, and there's lots of things in the way, including a seat belt, a steering wheel, and these center consoles here. So the way to practice this is to take your magazine out of your firearm, rack the slide to ensure that there's no ammunition in there, and to not pull the trigger. And the first thing to do is to get the seat belt out of the way, and then draw and aim. You can aim anywhere at any window that's not close. I recommend sightless aiming on the nearest window. It's just so close that you would have to do this right here, which I guess does work, but I don't think under stress any of us would actually have the wherewithal to do that. I think we would naturally want to just shoot like this, and we wouldn't go to the trouble of doing all this. So it's always a good idea to keep your firearm shooting and drills as natural as possible, as smooth of a thing that we would do under stress when needing to defend ourselves.